Every systemic shift reaches a threshold where understanding the problem is no longer the constraint. Now, decision is the only thing that matters. Higher education is standing at that exact tipping point right now. This scorecard shows forces we already recognize: demographic decline, financial pressure, AI upending learning, and deep skepticism about value. Yet much of the sector remains in observation, extending timelines built for a different era. Gathering more data has become a stalling tactic. The sector has reached a moment where progress depends entirely on the willingness to act on what is already known. There is a reason decision-making lags: the comfort of delay. Real decisions require painful trade-offs that strike at the core of an institution's identity. They force leaders to explicitly define what matters most and what can no longer be sustained. This chart reveals a dangerous assumption. The slow, linear line represents the pace of traditional academic planning. The sharply rising curve shows how structural change compounds. This divergence creates a severe crisis gap, compressing the window for response. Delaying action destroys an institution's agency. It replaces the ability to choose a future with the necessity of reacting to one. Leadership must now evaluate internal choices, starting with the reality of programmatic focus. This matrix maps the trade-offs. On the left, proactive focus. On the right, institutional inertia. Proactive focus involves shutting down legacy programs that lack clear demand or differentiated outcomes. This moves trapped capital back toward the institution's true strengths. This choice triggers intense internal friction. It requires the institution to move away from a comprehensive identity to become excellent at a specific few. Institutional inertia avoids that short-term pain. Keeping every legacy program active prevents faculty and alumni backlash for another semester. However, inertia slowly bleeds resources from core competencies. It ensures that, in a competitive market, no single program has the resources to stand out. Maintaining a program purely out of momentum is an active decision to dilute the overall excellence of the institution. The next evaluation involves the role of human teaching in an AI-enabled landscape. AI now handles content delivery, student feedback, and adaptive learning with increasing efficiency, the traditional bedrock of the college experience. Relevance now requires rebuilding the curriculum around uniquely human elements, like the deep mentorship shown here, rather than simple content distribution. Shifting to this model invalidates the high-margin, scalable lecture hall. It also requires an immediate and significant investment in retraining legacy faculty. Layering AI tools onto old teaching structures only makes an obsolete model run faster. It does nothing to redesign the institution for the future. This shift in value is driven by students who are increasingly skeptical of the degree's price tag. The era of implied value has faded. Students now demand clear answers about what a program will allow them to do and whether the investment is worth the debt. We map this reality back to the trade-off matrix: accountable ROI on the left and implied value on the right. Choosing accountable ROI means guaranteeing measurable career or skill outcomes. This is how institutions attract today's value-conscious students. The cost is the loss of brand shielding. When outcomes are explicit, an institution can no longer hide behind historical reputation to drive its enrollment. In a transparent market, an institution's legacy brand will prove insufficient if it cannot explicitly demonstrate its utility every single day. We have reached the critical consequence of choosing the comfort of delay. Delaying a hard decision externalizes it. It hands the power of choice over to market forces, policy shifts, and financial constraints. This flowchart tracks the two paths. Internal action leads to retained agency. The path of delay leads elsewhere. External forces, market shifts, policy changes, financial limits take the wheel, ending at forced imposition. Necessary changes happen, but are blunt and misaligned with institutional values. Protecting internal political comfort today ensures institutional destruction tomorrow. Higher education currently occupies a decision moment, a window where options and agency remain available before a crisis takes hold. Modern leadership requires the courage to act before having perfect information. It requires acting with sufficient clarity, knowing what matters most and what cannot be sustained before the system forces a more brutal answer. This strategy is for executive teams who recognize that programmatic cuts represent fundamental declarations of institutional identity. Failure is guaranteed for those who continue to pilot at the margins while assuming that time is still on their side. Higher education will not remain as it is. The only variable left is who holds the pen when the final decisions are written.